Play that if you can so the audience can see it.
Oh, the drone strike.
Yeah, this just happened a couple days ago. Okay, so question. Who's involved? Well, this is Putin doing it because he wants to say that there's an attack, so he can use this as a leverage point to attack Ukraine, and he can say, well, I'm just reacting to it. No, it was really, they were attempting to go after him. This was Ukraine's job. They're trying to get him to an attempt on assassination. Well, if that is the case, why would you do it that way? That's not even that big. That's not a big deal. That's not how you're going to kill the guy. No, it was U.S. involved. No, it's an outsider. No, it's this. What do you think all this stuff here with this balloon here?
First, it doesn't matter who did it or why they did it. All that matters is there's a video. Russia said the U.S. did it. Russia will escalate on that pretext. We can then get into the argument of, did he fake it? Did he not? I think people underestimate what we're seeing. The conversation we've had is like, what is that even doing? What is that small thing? Why did it explode where it exploded? Well, I believe they shot it down. But the scary thing about these drones is they can carry powerful explosives. They can swarm. It could be a false flag. There's no real way to know. It could be Russia saying, send in a single drone. My question is, if it was Ukraine, how did they launch this attack? Where did they launch it from? But it does fall in line with what you would actually expect to see in terms of this kind of warfare. You're not going to see Ukraine firing missiles from Ukrainian territory into the air, targeting Moscow or anything like that. Yeah. You're going to see guerrilla tactics and small-scale insurgency-style sabotage and attacks like this. This could have been a Ukrainian or a Ukrainian sympathetic Russian or any other foreign mercenary who had a drone. I don't know how big that drone was. I'm not sure if it was the size of a car or whatever. But you can do these things with very small consumer drones. They can carry explosive. It's terrifying. It could be that someone, James Bond style, went to Moscow, put the thing on the ground, ran away, and then waited an hour, and then someone remotely activated, launched it, and went and tried to take out Putin.
Yeah, and mind you, that whoever was flying it, I mean, it didn't even make the flag go down. It didn't really penetrate anything. So whoever was
no one's flying it.
Yeah, probably nobody, just by itself.
Automatic. People have said, cut off the signal. Now, these things have a GPS in them. It knows where it is and where it needs to go. Even if you cut off its access to GPS and the internet, it already has a mapped trajectory. In
the only thing I'm saying is, let's play propaganda, okay? If you're Putin and you're behind this, and you did this, and then you attack Ukraine, guess what you can say? Listen, you don't do that to us. You're going to allow them to do something like that to us? We have to stay strong. We can't have them think about this. So what prompted me showing this clip is when you said, I think Putin is going to use nuclear, and nuclear is not what you think it is, all the stuff you're going through. Okay, if NATO keeps pushing the envelope, and they're getting involved, and they're saying, no, we're not involved. No, we're not involved. No, we're not. No, listen, you're involved. And this is a war that it's you against Russia. It's not really. I saw something the other day, a picture of a great funny meme that says, let me show you how to work from home and make $40 billion. And it's a picture of Zelensky. I don't know if you guys seen this or not. It's freaking hilarious.
That is hilarious.
I'll send it to you, Rob. You have to show this. It's one of the funnier memes I've seen this week. I sent it to Mario. This tells you how much Mario loves politics. Mario says, Pat, I don't get it. I'm like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's a Rob, I'll send it to, I'll text it to you. It's worth watching. So, but the point is, if I'm Russia and I did this intentionally to attack, if in the next 3, 4, 5 days Russia does attack Ukraine in a major way, I mean, there's got to be a percentage to be thinking about this was strategic.
I don't know if it was a false flag. I mean, I could go back and forth because it's impossible to know. But I think Russia would have already made a declaration if they said the U.S. was behind this. They're the ones who are pushing this. This is actually really, really bad for Russia if they're unprepared for full-scale war with NATO. So the strategy, man, it could go a million ways. Let's imagine this scenario. The United States wants to force Russia to declare war on us so that we can formally enter, so that the United States can take all of everything it has and put it in Ukraine. How do you make that happen? This is the worst thing that could have happened to Putin. A pathetic, failed attempt, which they are now forced to say was us, and they will do nothing about it. I think that if it was actually a false flag, they'd probably, I don't know, crash a plane into the Kremlin or something, like blow up a large portion of it with a cruise missile, and then say, they directly attacked us, it's there, look, it's on camera, they'd blast the video everywhere. This is a pathetic little drone, 2 of them blowing up, and nothing happens. If it was the U.S. who did it, and Russia said it is, here's the world stage. The United States, according to Russia, just tried to kill its president, and Russia says, we can't do anything about it. Makes them look weak, and it's going to scare their allies, thinking they're going to lose this one. Who am I betting on? Which horse? So that's why ultimately I don't know. I think a false flag from Russia would have been stronger, and they would have immediately made some kind of move. And they don't need an assassination attempt on Putin to justify nuclear artillery use or strikes in Ukraine, because striking Ukraine when they're blaming the U.S. doesn't make sense. So
on the premise that they're looking weak. I think when this war started, nobody wants to see this war, by the way. I mean, and generally speaking, like, people are actually dying on the ground. It's hundreds of thousands of people. It's very sad. But I think when this thing started, we think Russia's just going to pummel Ukraine. They're just going to take over this country. It's done. And then fast forward, it's been a year and a half. Ukraine's holding its own, apparently. Russia is basically outsourcing half their military, or a large portion. There's this Wagner group.
Yeah.
Whoever this is, they're basically pulling people out of fucking prison to start fighting for them. You have mothers protesting that the sons are dying for a war they don't want any part of.
where'd you hear that?
Right. Well, this is mainstream media. Well, this is where you're hearing it from. But this Wagner group is a real group that they are basically outsourcing, are they not?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you believe the American corporate press, which I tend to, even though I'm very critical of it, I do fact check these things, and we have to get our information from somewhere. That's a difficult thing to do. Looking at various sources around the world to try and figure out what's true and what's not. If you go to Russian sources, they'll tell you the exact opposite of what you just said.
Well, you can't trust anything that comes out of RT or Russian
Yep.
sources, can
You
you?
can't. Can you trust anything coming out of the New York Times? And they
No.
claimed that Trump was working for Russia.
Yeah, no, and at the same time, Adam, they thought it was going to happen like overnight. He was going to take them over. I don't think anybody expected us to send them billions of dollars, tanks, troops, and all that. I mean, they're winning.
but
The UK is sending in depleted uranium tank busters, which Russia has already said that is an escalation to the use of nuclear force.
I agree.
I guess my point is I'm not saying that I believe everything that comes out of the corporate left media at all. I think at this point we've realized the Russia gate.
Adam, when you're in the middle of a conversation with somebody, avoid
Adam
putting a
started eating
big
a
chunk of
buffet.
protein
Sorry about
bar in
that.
your mouth, bro, because you sound concerning.
Starving.
Adam, I got something serious
gonna
to
be
say.
okay.
Starving.
Eat a
Sorry.
freaking nougat.
Rob, show the article from Zero Hedge.
My point is this: I tend to believe New York Times more than Russian propaganda. There's levels to lying.
Russia calls the New York Times American propaganda.
Exactly.
So Russia has its interests. The U.S. has its interests. I think Putin is a bad dude. I think Putin's a substantially worse dude than Joe Biden is. And I think Joe Biden's a pretty bad dude. So if I had Joe Biden in front of me and Vladimir Putin in front of me and Joe Biden said, here's what's happening, I'd be like, you know what? I think you're both full of it, but I'm going to go Biden on this one, even though I don't like the guy.
Yeah.
So I agree. The question is, when it comes to the granular nature of all of the news coming out, the U.S. is lying to you, right? You can't trust anything they say. It would be the stupidest military strategy in the world to tell the public what you're doing in war or why you're doing it. You'd lose in 2 seconds. So that just means whether we like Biden or not, we can't trust Russia or the United States corporate press on this one. We can trust to a greater degree people on the ground, but then you're going to get conflicting narratives. The reality is it's called fog of war. We probably won't know. And then whoever wins is going to tell us what we should think.
That's how history works.
Absolutely.
Read this. Here's Zero Hedge article. So former CIA officer says decision to drone attack Kremlin was made by the United States. Former CIA intelligence officer Larry Johnson, different Larry Johnson than Grandmama, says the decision to launch a drone attack on the Kremlin was made by the United States. Go a little lower. The Wednesday attack, which was likely to have been targeting Russian President Vladimir Putin, was stopped by electronic warfare system, which disabled the drones before they could reach their target. According to Johnson, the attack must have been spearheaded by the Biden administration and the U.S. military-industrial complex, because decisions on such attacks are made not in Kiev but in Washington. Washington should understand clearly that we know this. Although the attack, which Ukraine denied it was involved in, failed to accomplish its tactical goal, it was still highly symbolic, according to Johnson. Can you Google Johnson? Go to Johnson's Wikipedia real quick.
Let me tell you what I'd do. You're in war, and you don't want to be obvious. A false flag could be obvious. The United States says we need to send in more money into Ukraine. How can we accomplish this? For the low cost of 2 drones, the U.S. stages a really ridiculous assassination attempt.
Yeah.
Russia blows it up, tricking Russia into blaming the U.S., and then any escalation can be swung or manipulated into being against the United States, giving the U.S. grounds for a casus belli, a cause for war. So if Russia takes the bait, and they're doing it, saying the U.S. did this, and they take any action against us, it gives the U.S. what the U.S. wants: cause for war to enter Ukraine. And then they can come to the American people. Every corporate channel will say it. I tell you what will happen. YouTube will issue new community guidelines saying, if you support Russian propaganda at a time of war when the U.S. is facing an existential nuclear threat, we will take your videos down. And you'll say, I wonder what that means. It means if you don't support the war, there's no way YouTube is going to let anyone have that conversation if you try and actually talk about what you think may be happening.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.